I'm going to the Lord. I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm going to the Lord. Hallelujah. Yeah, I'm going to the Lord. Hallelujah. Oh, glory. I'm going to the Lord. I'm so glad. I wonder what I'll do when I get to the Lord. I wonder what I'll do when I get. I wonder what I will see.
Going to the loader. Lord knows.
Hey fans, that's our friend from the show, Hani El Khatib, bringing in the little co-writing with Charles Guiteau for the intro music on this one.
Did you get approval from them?
Who? Hani El Khatib or Charles Guiteau?
The estate of Charles Guiteau?
Wonder if he left his estate the same way that Thomas Jefferson left his. Something tells me he was more of a net zero kind of guy instead of an in debt, right?
Yep. Coming to this world, leave this world the way you came into it? I'd say so.
You mean go to the Lordy the same way that you came into it?
Oh, poor Charlie.
Charlie go. Charlie get out.
Charlie get out.
I still haven't released that episode. I think I need to do that still. I have to go through it. Just listen to a little snippet of it before we got on air here. But I haven't gone through it. I think we kind of missed the mark. It's already been out for over a month or almost a month. You know?
Do you think? There's other shows people could have been catching up on.
Yeah, but the whole excitement of it being released and new on Netflix, now that's all past, and that's like, now we have to, oh, hey, remember that show that came out a month ago? Well, here, we're going to talk about it, you know? You have like I feel like you have a short window to release things right after something comes out, or you have to wait like 25 years, like Revolution with Al Pacino. Or however long that was. That was probably 30 years. When did that movie come out?
The 80s, mid-80s.
Yeah. Right after Heat or something, wasn't it? Wasn't it like
it was like 10 years before. He didn't do another movie for like
mid-90s.
He didn't do another film for like 6 years because it was so bad.
Well, but it was sandwiched between like good movies, or it was like right after Scarface, or like it wasn't like he was begging for work. He was in the heat of his run.
He could have done anything he wanted. That included crappy British portrayal of the American Revolution.
Yeah. So fans were at we're in studio, special in studio episode. John's in town. In the town that we live in, we don't want to say because, you know, the fans would go crazy.
Yep, home for a long Thanksgiving weekend. Following on the heels of...
It was right after Scarface that came out. That was his next film. That was his follow-up effort. Wow.
Some would say he knocked it out of the park. Took a couple rope making classes.
Yeah. Yeah, so how was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. Had it with my wife, her family, and my immediate family. It was good. How was yours?
It was good. Had some Chef Boyardee for dinner.
Special request.
That's all we had.
No turkey.
It's been a rough year for the fam. Since we haven't been able to release so many episodes.
New content.
Haven't been able to provide the same way. We lost a couple fans here and there, so we had those little mini raviolis.
You know what goes into them now. You watched how it's made, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can now make them. You can make them yourself.
Yeah, but not at the speed and pace that they can make them in the factories.
I never ate it growing up. It was not something that was allowed in our house.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of wish I didn't watch it because they mix like carrots in with the meat.
That's puts you off
I don't like carrots.
at all. Cooked or uncooked?
I like uncooked carrots, but cooked carrots, nah, that ain't for me.
It's all blended together.
I know. I guess I've never had it. I had SpaghettiOs. It's kind of the same premise, no?
Yeah.
Have you had SpaghettiOs?
That I had, sometimes growing up.
Really?
You know,
Wow.
I had to go behind the.
You were
sneaking
sneaking
in.
it. You were while you were watching Taxi Cab Confessions up, eating spaghetti,
Hey, I had my routines.
eating SpaghettiOs and watching Taxi Cab Confessions on HBO. Fuzzed out, or did you have
We
HBO?
had HBO.
You had HBO.
Growing up, yeah, we always had HBO.
Wow. Jeez.
I think they had Prism, and then like in 1992, they went to HBO.
Who's they?
My parents.
Oh, okay.
I didn't record it. I wasn't buying it.
No, shocking. You probably wouldn't buy it now.
Well,
Speaking of which, fans, we're here to talk about something that was free to the public.
there's
Made
no such
available
thing.
by on the backs of the taxpayers.
I mean, it cost you 12 hours, but
Maybe. PBS released, as we teased on the podcast, PBS released a 6-part, 12-hour marathon of a documentary series called The American Revolution, made possible by Ken Burns, Sarah Botstein, and David Schmidt.
and the
And the donors that were
Better Angel Society,
Better Angel Society.
the Blavatnik Family Foundation,
You found all of them?
David M. Rubenstein, the Robert D. and Patricia E. Kern Family Foundation,
I wonder where David Rubenstein's family comes from.
Eric and Wendy Schmidt, Kenneth C. Griffin with Griffin Catalyst, Jenny and Jonathan Levine, and the Crimson Lion Foundation. That's most PBS content, I feel like. They always have some family fund. I don't know who would want to leave all their money to.
Missed opportunity for the Nailing History podcast to have gotten our name out there. How much do you think it would have cost to like get our name on the credits?
I don't think PBS is looking for cheap advertising. I
Yeah,
think
they are. They're looking for any amount of money they can possibly scrounge up. I don't know if Ken Burns put his nose up at it. My guess would be yes, based off of this documentary that he put together here.
The Better Angel Society was like the highlight. They were the main.
But then the last episode, they went heavy with the Daughters of the American Revolution and the Museum of the American Revolution
and Mount Vernon, the daughters.
and Mount Vernon.
Everyone was waiting for the last one.
Yeah, they were like, all right, time to pull out the big guns, I guess. Daughters of the American Revolution one was pretty good. I find yeah.
Better Angel Society is a 501c organization dedicated to engaging Americans with their history through documentary film.
What's their rating? Where's their money go?
Ken Burns is the first person on here. According to their website, they support Ken Burns and Florentine Films.
Gee, something shady going on there. Maybe.
Lynn
maybe
Novick
that's something.
and-
Maybe that's something we need to release those files. Release the Angel. What is it?
Better Angel Society.
Release the Better Angel Society files. That's what Congress should be fighting for. Do you imagine that's what happened? Ken Burns gets caught up into. Or imagine if Ken Burns is like the highlight of the Epstein files when they finally release them.
That's why he released this documentary before November. He got it out before.
Yeah, you'd think that he would have waited until the 4th of July or something, but for some reason they had to release it before the Epstein files got released. Interesting. I don't know if many people are talking about that, but you heard it here
I
first.
think everything's a smokescreen. We need everything out there, or Ken, go release it.
Yeah, Ken, release this piece of documentary that everyone's going to get all their panties all in a bunch over, so then they don't think about they'll be worrying about how people are saying that Native Americans formed our government instead of who's on the Epstein list. We need the distraction, Ken, and then Ken just comes to the rescue. He just as he's I got it. I'll slap this together in about 3 months is what it seems like.
Better angels coming together.
The Better Angels, I bet there's some shady business going on there.
Quote of Abraham Lincoln's, by the way, if anyone's wondering why it's named that, from his first inaugural address.
Oh, what is it? What's the quote?
The mystic chords of memory will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature.
Wow. That's good for them. That's a good name. Wish we could have been that clever when we started our podcast name.
I don't know the context in which they're going for, but.
So, John and I watched it. It was a tough watch. It was like back in history. It was felt like being back in history class, but we got through it and I got John. Shockingly, he listened to me, and almost as shockingly, he was watching this at first, not taking any notes. We knew that we were going to be talking about it, and he didn't. I finally, we were talking about it. I said, I sure hope you're taking notes. And then, we were talking about this whole thing last night a little bit. He said, well, I have notes starting at episode 2 because I wasn't taking notes until you said something. So
yeah, well, we all know.
I was like, what were you? Did you think you would have remembered the whole 12 hours and your thoughts of the whole 12 hours to be able to talk about it, that you didn't have to take notes?
There would be certain recall on the key points.
Well, we did do a good job of remembering our trip to Monticello.
It came up. It came. Episode 1, anyway, everyone knows all that stuff. That's the stuff they always talk about.
What, how the Native Americans helped form our democracy?
Yes.
That's what really hit the airwaves. So let's get started. Episode 1, American Revolution by Ken Burns, who looks like a goofball. Do you think he dyes his hair?
Yes.
You think so?
A little,
because I feel like he should color his beard more. He likes. I don't know if the chicks really dig the look of the black hair and the gray beard. Unless he's just trying to look smug. I don't know. Well, he's never going to come on our show now. I shouldn't have said anything. I like when he's got the long flow. Look. That might be his best look.
That's very high school. I feel like. I feel like school with guys who had hairs like that.
Yeah, I feel like he needs a little small hoop earring in his left ear when he's got his hair looking like that, right?
Yeah,
and a leather jacket with
Yeah.
a pack of smokes rolled up his sleeves like a greaser.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what it is. I don't know why I said that.
Well, should we give our fan before we get into it? So, anyone who doesn't know Ken Burns, he came on the scene. He splashed on the scene back in 1990.
He splashed on the scene, huh?
It took the country by storm, far more than the American Revolution. I think this one's a little more divisive. But Ken Burns started, kind of really made his way into the American, society. Like, we all know about him because of the Civil War, which came out in 1990.
Well, he won the Academy Award for documentary feature of the Brooklyn Bridge in 1981. So
that was 9 years earlier. Yeah, but
yeah, I got you.
Civil War. He did one on the Vietnam War. He did the one in 2007 on the war, World War II, and then he's done random things on baseball, Prohibition.
Thomas Jefferson. 2 episodes, 1997.
And then he's
Jazz.
like sponsored a few in the back end too, like one on the Wild West. So he's always done with PBS. He's always releasing on PBS.
I feel like this got a good this had some good lead up to it, I feel like, Like I feel like people were excited. People were talking. I mean, maybe just because that's what I get on my Twitter feed. On the Nailing History podcast Twitter feed is a lot of history talk. It's like history talk and then like random like AI like 40-plus-year-old women saying like, "Hey, I'm 40 with 2 kids. Does that mean you won't date me or something?" It's like really weird. I don't know. That's what my whole
Ken Burns has that problem too, bro. I'm sure.
But like, yeah.
I think the build-up, there was a little bit of a build-up. I think
Well, people are excited about the birthday, the big birthday coming up.
Coming up on 250.
250 is a big deal. It's not quite as cool as 200, but 250. It might be the only milestone birthday that we're here for, alive.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be almost 90 at 300.
Enjoy it while you can. Smoke them while you got them.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, might be their last hurrah with the just missed out on the bicentennial, and, 250 is as good as we're going to get. So, and what are we going to have? A UFC match on the front lawn of the White House or something's going on crazy. So maybe this is all that we got to remember the history.
You think Ken will be there?
Ken's fighting, I think. It's going to be Ken Burns versus Brian McClanahan. Fight to the death. We got an AI prompt coming soon for that. Brian McClanahan is John's libertarian guru on YouTube.
He's not libertarian. He's not hard. No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
He's an originalist.
Okay.
Meaning he thinks that interpretation of the Constitution today, you always have to ask yourself, well, what did the Founding Fathers mean? And Matt doesn't seem to think that matters.
Well, no one really cares, though, either.
Well, we know that now. Ken Burns obviously doesn't at the liberties he's taken. He's not a libertarian. It's a small government mindset, but that's because that's what the founders, many of them.
He's a bozo, and him and Ken Burns are like would be arch nemesis if Ken Burns would even give him the light of day. No way Ken Burns knows that guy exists. And John sent me a video of this guy, and he's like talking smack on the Ken Burns documentary, but he never even watched it. He hadn't even watched it yet. He's like, "Oh, I haven't watched it yet. I might do a live reaction video of it." So like a 12-hour episode coming from Brian McClanahan soon. How much is he going to charge for that, you think? Patreon only, probably.
I'd say so. $10 a month.
And then he's like, "I haven't watched it, but I'm going to talk 40 minutes on my opinion about how, Thomas Jefferson,
Well, he's seen the Civil War. He's seen other Ken Burn films.
So
he knows a lot of the documentarians that he interviewed. He calls them bozos. Annette Gordon-Reed is one of these ladies in the Ken Burns documentary.
Oh, is she? Mm-hmm. Well, let's get started. First episode is called "In Order to Be Free," from May 1754 to May 1775.
Yep, and from the jump, he stumbles out the gate, in my opinion.
Well, that's pretty much it's funny because most of the negative press or whatever that you see in Twitter or like just in general is about literally the first probably 2 minutes of the show. So I feel like that's all that anyone's watching. Like I don't know. I would like to know what percentage of people who started this documentary actually finished it.
It has to be
low,
very low.
It's under 20% because, first of all, as we're talking about this, I just have to say that what I realized as we're watching it is like, this isn't like a bingeable series. It's not made to binge. It's not like Netflix dropped some and everyone's talking about it. And I think
it's not Death by Lightning.
There's some people who thought that that's what they were going to get out of it. I think is like, oh, something like I'm going to get hooked to it. This isn't Joe Exotic talking about killing Carol Baskin or Stephen Avery, killing that lady and trying to get away with it. I don't know if you even know the Making a Murderer, but I think some people thought that they were going to get something that like, oh, I'm going to be hooked on, but it's not that at all. It's dry, it's slow. And I think part of the issue that a lot of people had, now this isn't something that we're going to get into right now, but what I realize is there's a lot of repetition of like talking about things over and over and over again, and some of the things are annoying that he's talking about or annoys us, and it gets annoying where you're like, he's bringing it up, but when you're watching this, you have to realize that like it's an educational tool to somewhat. Like teachers can use this to play in their class. Some of it would be good to play, and so you have to set the stage and like set the, you have to set the scene, so to speak, every time you're talking about. It's like you're talking about Saratoga, and you might have to mention how there were slaves free black men and slaves fighting because even though you talked about it when and during
it's an educational program, so there's always a need to set up the context because a teacher may be a teacher. You
only want to play here's a snippet of on Saratoga. You're not going to play the 12-hour episode. I mean, if I was a teacher, maybe I would. I mean, think about it. 12 hours, that's 12 classes.
That's basically a whole syllabus if you're teaching a class on the American Revolution, which you could very well do.
If you figure right now it's December, if I'm a history teacher, I'm trying to get to Christmas break. So like you play an hour, you play 45 minutes. I mean, how long is a history class? 45 minutes in high school?
Yeah.
So what's 12 hours divided by 45? I mean, how many classes is that? I think if you played this in 45-minute increments, I mean, 13, it would take
14 classes.
I think it would take you to Christmas.
Yeah. Maybe that's what he had in mind.
I wouldn't be against it.
All history teachers around the country were like, if you could poll, when do you want a documentary to drop? Oh, it's got to be mid-November because I don't feel I'm grading papers and I just got to put something on.
Yeah, then I can just put this on and
put
skate
them to
through.
Sleep. Put them to sleep.
Yeah, get a month and a half off basically. But anyway, so that's just to set the stage of like, it's hard to rate this on an entertainment level.
That's for sure.
Because it's not meant to be
dropped on
entertaining.
Netflix. It was dropped on PBS. And for people that went in expecting,
I think a lot of people did
a page turner.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm excited for the next episode. Like I like when I was watching it, I'm like, like episode 3 is over, and you're just like, oh, what time is it? All right, I guess I can watch another one. Like you weren't like, I need to know what happens next.
What went on?
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, they're on their way. Oh, it's cold out. It's winter. What are they going to do? I need to go to the next episode. I need to figure out how they get through the winter of 78.
I do feel like in some of the build, I think I watched an interview because I think Theo Vaughn had interviewed him like a month ago.
He did.
And he talked about, the talk was kind of about how like it's a different perspective. I mean, this is always the thing. What's the sell? He was kind of selling, well, people might come away. They think they know what they know about the American Revolution, but here are these different these angles that you could take now. And
I don't know what angle. I mean, the angle was, well, I mean, we'll get into it, but the angle was basically the founding fathers were a bunch of rich heads, and England basically just decided it was their choice to stop the war at the end. The whole time
there was a lot of praising of the British as
the whole time you're watching it, you're like, I think they're going to end this on like a sad note, like, yeah, and by the way, and womp womp womp, England lost the war.
Wow, if the British actually won, all of these minorities in today's U.S. would be better off.
Well, we went over what would happen. We went over what would have happened in an episode. Did we ever release that?
I don't think we talked about the groups that he was talking about in the show. I'm sorry, not intentionally.
What do you mean?
I really think the general, like the sub level takeaway is that they're upset the British didn't win.
Yeah,
I think it's basically like, oh, it wasn't that bad for the British, but actually, all these things went down, and Native Americans probably would have been better off. A lot of liberties taken, a lot of history, hindsight 2020 kind of going on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's the whole nature of pushing an agenda through a 12-hour documentary. But it was like interesting. I have to give it, I'll just speak kind of a higher level, I will say overall, because it does go through the social, societal stuff, but he does do a half decent job. As someone, I've read, some military books on the Civil War, and you're oftentimes wondering, like, what do these troop movements look like? I can't visualize when they say taking this hill or moving there. And I did appreciate how he drew each battle.
Oh, that was pretty cool. I don't know how. The whole time I'm watching that, I'm like, how did they know? Like, how did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
Just like studying the maps.
Yeah.
Those are the unsung heroes that probably don't get interviewed. Like, imagine the guys who were like, here, make a graphic of this battle, and like they have to go through all of this like old maps and old letters that you can barely read, and like they're in this like room. Ken's probably paying them like minimum wage.
Don't come out until you got me Saratoga. I want Bunker Hill to the T. I don't want anyone questioning.
I don't want them questioning the battles because they're going to be questioning everything else.
So that will say that
was cool. You're right. I did think. I'm like, man, how do they do that? Like, what kind of maps are written? Like, I feel like now, obviously present day, it's easy. They probably just have like GPS trackers on. Like, if they were to have this now, they'd have like GPS tracker, whatever, and they'd be able to do it right away. I think like I always thought like, oh yeah, definitely like World War II, they would have after action reports. I mean, that's just based off of watching Band of Brothers. There was that one episode where Winters was writing the after. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I guess that's real. But then you kind of think of it from a more present day, but you never really think about like, did these guys actually like document after action reports of the American Revolution? Or was it word of mouth?
Word of mouth. I think it'd be word of mouth. There would have been some eyewitness accounts. And I think there has to be some liberty taken as to exactly where certain troop movements were. I just feel like for me overall, setting up like the theater of the war itself, like the major army components of moving them down the coast, or Washington's troops moving from here to here. Like, I didn't really know that up until watching this documentary.
Like how they had New York.
I didn't know the whole timeline. I just knew like, oh, the winter of 77, 78 was Valley Forge. Saratoga was, a little before that. Yorktown was a couple years after. Like, I knew the timeline, but the actual, like, how did the troops get to where they were?
Yeah.
I didn't know all that.
Well,
I think you did a good setup.
We might do a little interactive PBS at the end of this. At the end of this thing, there's might have a quiz at the end. On the
see who was paying attention
on the timeline of the wars. They got a little interactive game for
we should have an interactive game for each other. See who's paying attention the most.
I think we will. We'll have a little competition maybe. I've played around with it already. It's fun. It's fun. So yeah. All right. So let's just get. I mean, I took notes, but they are like just stream of consciousness sentences with like.
Well. Just kind of rewinding back to
like we certainly don't have to go through the history of the American Revolution.
No.
We're not experts like Ken Burns is.
Not experts, or all the historians he had on.
Yeah.
But just back to your point, I think the first 2 minutes that you mentioned about people on the internet kind of griping on about.
So should we get into that? Let's talk
into
about
that, and then I'll give you I've got my 2 cents on that.
So the first what really hit the airwaves. What really hit the critics, was I think it was. I don't know if it was the opening scene. Now I have a note that says, "Opening with a Thomas Paine quote, nice touch." I don't know what the Thomas Paine quote was, but it opened up with a Thomas Paine quote, who wrote Common Sense.
Right.
So I thought that was a nice touch.
Probably one of the biggest radicals of the American Revolutionary period.
Yeah, but also kind of a loser. They painted him as a bit of a loser, like failed something or another, but he could write well.
And wrote like the second most read book in the country after the Bible.
That got released on my birthday.
Nice.
Which is a pretty big deal. Now I got, Richard Nixon, Dave Matthews, Muggsy Bogues, Jimmy Page, Kate Middleton, and now Common Sense.
What a day to be born.
It was a great day to be born. It's very famous day. Someday they're going to say, and that guy who hosted Nailing History probably won't even know my name.
I think that, yeah, they have it. I saw on YouTube that you can watch the first 10 minutes of the documentary, and I think he probably did that intentionally, knowing that no one's going to get through those 10 minutes.
I don't know many people did. I mean, so let's stop beating around the bush. My second note is Ben Franklin copying the Indians' democracy, join the Union or die, cut up snake.
So for any of our fans who haven't watched it,
so it starts in like 1754, which is like just before the 7 Years' War, right?
AKA the French and Indian War, right? Yeah. So the context opens up with the Iroquois were a Native American group, primarily centered in central New York. I think it's from western New York all the way through like what is Vermont. You had these different, and up into Canada. There's 6 nations, 6 tribes. And basically, they'd formed a confederacy.
Democracy.
Democracy. It was called the Iroquois Confederacy. And that goes back, what do they say, hundreds of years?
Maybe.
And basically, it was a group, they were all Iroquois. So that was like the overarching like group of Indians that they were. So it was a alliance of the Mohawk, the Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora. And they were formed to end conflict, promote peace among themselves. Started in upstate New York. And basically, they made the conclusion that Ben Franklin studied this confederation that these tribes put together, and that's why we ended up getting the federal republic we have. Well, he said democracy, but the nature of the Constitution that would eventually come about was this relationship between the states and the government, like having this.
But I think the point was to bring up that, like, even in the before the French and Indian War, like very far before we even like declared our independence, there was a thought that like we need to be together, like the colonies need to have some kind of relation.
Yes, because he came up with that in the 1750s, right? Saying that join or die, and that's where the snake came from.
The snake cut up snake. That's like join the Union or die, and then the snake's cut up into 13 different pieces. I don't know. I don't really understand the symbolism there. Aside from the 13 colonies, the snake being.
It's not a very powerful snake if it's diced up into 13
I guess
pieces.
It's dead, probably. So then my next note is Paul Giamatti reprising his role as John Adams, which I didn't know that was the case. I never looked that up. Is that the case? Did he voice John Adams?
He was John Adams in the show.
Yeah, and I think he was John Adams' voice in this too, right? Yeah. Okay. I got the great shots of the old Appalachian Mountains. Beautiful. When they're talking about the Native Americans getting kicked out of them. It's pretty good. So then this was something that I didn't really remember or didn't know that I thought was interesting. Talking about how, so George, have we talked on the podcast about George Washington starting the 7 Years' War?
I think
unknowingly.
Yeah, I think we did.
So what I didn't realize is, so where was he? He was at Fort Duquesne, and he accidentally shot at some French soldiers. And then they came back and fought him, and then that was basically the start of the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War.
They were pushed back, and then he went back there again with General Braddock, the following year, and then Braddock got overrun, and then I think it was like a full retreat. Yeah.
Well, in any case, I didn't realize that George Washington wanted a royal commission for his work in the 7 Years' War. And when they said no, he started hating. He felt like the British were like sticking their nose up at him. That was pretty cool.
Like a little militia leader. Yeah, you're a colonial. Yeah, they stuck their thumb. They're like, no.
Yeah, no, you think you did anything for us? Like, nah. Kind of like a Charles Guiteau, I guess. They kind of treated him a little bit like Charles Guiteau. Like George Washington's like, I won that war for you guys. And they're like, no, you didn't.
That could have been a good what if. What if he got that commission? What if George Washington got that British officership?
Wow.
Maybe that is like the real fork in the road.
That might be. So yeah, so he was all upset about that. And part of the reason why he had some disdain for the British government. But I also found out that this is kind of where they're painting this picture of like, yeah, this whole thought, and like maybe this is the angle that Ken Burns was taking that you don't really know, but it's like kind of a negative look at it, is like, you think that our founding fathers were all about freedom, democracy, putting their middle finger up at Big Brother across the pond, but he goes to talk about how like all of these, and I think that was this episode, is where all these founding fathers owned land. So what we've talked about before is the Proclamation of 1763 or whatever, right, where they cut off at the Appalachians. England said you can't go across the Appalachians because we can't protect you.
Right.
And that also upset these founding fathers who had owned land
prospecting.
They were prospect because everyone was
speculating.
Everyone was saying that like, oh, the land that's the ticket. Like, I feel like land west of the Appalachians was the Bitcoin of the day, where like, get in on that, you'll make a ton of money, and then when this Proclamation of 1763 came out, where like it just took the money from those guys, and they kind of painted the picture like that was the first straw for like the higher up people.
Yeah, to get it to become more of a, you're kind of withholding my English liberties from it. You're taking my own property, and there's those the influential types in the society. Yeah.
Which is something that like you don't really hear about. Well, I thought it was interesting. I mean, so like they kind of painted it like, okay, so at first it was like the hierarchy of America that were upset with England, because like why would like the working class even care about that?
On the day to day, it'd probably be irrelevant.
So then I think like this hierarchy is like, then you kind of figure it's like, and this is a whole different way to look at it, is like, so then England's protected. So then the whole story goes, England's protecting they have the Proclamation of 1763, right? Am I right with that? They have that going on, and then in order to afford the defense of the mountains and the colonial soldiers, that's when they start taxing with the Stamp Act and all this stuff, and that's what gets the working class people upset, is because then it's starting to dig into their pockets. So it had to go from the rich, and like no one would care, and then I feel like the rich, maybe led by my king, John Hancock, started kind of twisting the knife a little bit and kind of like doing a little bit of rabble rousing and like, hey, yeah, can you believe they're making us pay for because they had ulterior motives, and that was kind of the painting, the picture that's getting painted, and maybe there's some truth to that.
Yeah, it definitely was conveyed as a way for, I don't know. I didn't do a great job, though, of juxtaposing why the Virginians, because most of those guys that were land speculating to the west were Virginians.
Right.
That wasn't necessarily the gripe of New Englanders, who would have been more of the merchant class.
With the Stamp Act, the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, the
tea.
Mm-hmm. And they never really, I guess they never really like intertwined, like, they never really painted, I guess to that end, like, maybe down in Virginia, the rich guys like Thomas Jefferson and freaking, George Washington and I guess James Madison.
Yeah. They did talk about the southern colonies just enough from the perspective of the British that they were the most profitable for the British overall. And so New England, while a thorn in the side, was not as a big of a deal to the greater British Empire that Georgia and the Carolinas
but they were more of like that nagging, like, hey, stop taxing us, stop taxing us, stop taxing us.
And so then, it opens up with join or die, gives the context of they get the West Indies. I did like the Caribbean. It mentions how the British Empire was very reliant on their southern colonies, not just including those in North America, but also in the Caribbean.
Yeah, they drive that home a lot.
And
he talks about the colonies being disunited. Definitely explains that pretty well. Of like, Virginians didn't give a shit about New Englanders and vice versa.
And my question, though, is he explained why they did it, but I don't think he made a really great point of saying why they felt throughout the course of the war that they had more of an intrinsic bond as the war progressed.
I think he did.
I don't think so.
I think he said because you're suffering together. That's where the bond came in. Not getting paid.
But then as the war went on, all the troops that made up the army were like working class people. So the rich ones eventually started bailing on it. They didn't make up the ranks in the army. Became a poor man's war as it progressed. He made a point of driving that home.
Well, it's pretty true. But I got to hear Vincent Brown's bringing the heat with those dreadlocks. The historian. He had silver dreadlocks. He's the man.
Vinnie Brown looked pretty cool.
I got a note here, land and liberty intertwined. That was a quote where Americans felt that owning land meant being free. That was a big deal up in like New England.
Well, that goes even back to, that's probably a commonality with a lot of the colonies, because in England for centuries, millennia, people were tenant farmers on a landlord's land.
And that's where people saw America being,
to own land was to own your own liberty. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which they're definitely trying to get away from that today.
Now.
Yeah.
It's funny how a bunch of communists make a documentary and they talk about why land is so important to the freedom.
Yeah. And then, but also you can't buy your own land. So I guess you can't be free anymore.
You're just dealing with an HOA. How free is anyone in this world?
Yeah, well, when you don't, little mini governments. John Hancock was looking good. Tom Hanks made an appearance. He voices some real randos.
A few different people, yeah.
Ben Franklin's voice is whack. I have that note. Whoever they had talking Ben Franklin was
sounded like Walter Cronkite, but I think he's dead. No, he was Ben Franklin in Liberty's Kids.
Was he?
Yeah. I don't know who voiced him in this.
It's just like
Peter Coyote was the narrator. I guess we should have said that.
That's a great name. Is he a Native American? Peter Coyote?
Stand by.
Patrick Henry at the Continental. This is what I didn't understand. Patrick Henry at the Continental Congress, First Continental Congress. I'm not a Virginian, but an American. Your boy Patrick Henry saying that? Do you think that's true?
No.
Maybe he's just trying to rabble rouse, dude. I mean, maybe he didn't think that, but he's like, I got to get New England to fight this war so I can start getting land over on the other side of the speculating. I got to start speculating.
I think they took liberty. I think they took it out of context.
You
I'll give it that much. I will give it that much.
You think so?
Just a little bit.
I mean, that was your big thing is Patrick Henry would have, he's a Virginian before he's an American.
It's true. They even said though, Thomas Jefferson.
I think I have you directly quoted saying Patrick Henry was the Gavin Newsom of his day.
In Virginia. Yeah.
So
Peter Coyote is Jewish, by the way. He took the name out of a deep interest in Native American and other cultures.
Wait, it's not his real name?
His father was a Sephardic Jew, and his mother was Ashkenazi Jewish.
Wait, what's his birth name?
He adopted. I'll get there. He adopted the name after meeting a Puate Shoshone shaman in 1967, and has called himself a Hopi Jew Buddhist at times. Robert Peter Cohen.
Wow, how did these two meet, huh? Like the John Lennon and Paul McCartney of our day.
Of PBS documentaries.
Ken Burns and Peter Coyote. Coyote.
He was part of an anarchist improv group in Haight-Ashbury in the mid-'60s during the Summer of Love.
Where are you reading this?
On his Wikipedia now.
Do you think he wrote his own Wikipedia?
I don't know. But they definitely, I think I read an article that was saying like having him narrate. He's narrated a few Ken Burns documentaries. And they he's got a good voice. He's got a great narration. But it sounds so definitive. Like his voice has like an air of authority to it that it sounds like everything he's saying is
true,
baked in facts.
Like Patrick Henry saying he's an American.
Yep.
I bet a lot of people didn't question it. Did you question it when you heard it? Do you even have that written down?
It raised an eyebrow. Well, I didn't start taking notes till episode 2. So no, did not. But I did remember I raised an eyebrow.
Then I fell asleep during the Battle of Concord.
Did not that much happen. Like a couple guys died.
Lexington and Concord. That was the one where Paul Revere ran, like the Paul Revere's ride.
He went one way, and then Dawes went another.
Yeah, Dawes got caught.
Yeah, and it wasn't that the British are coming; it was the regulars are coming, meaning the redcoats, meaning like the regular standing British
that was
army.
the first battle. I mean, it's pretty cool. It was a good one because that was the militia was stockpiling gunpowder and munitions in Lexington or Concord, one of the two.
I think they had to get. But then already at that point, wasn't Washington on his way, and then he came up from New York, from Philadelphia.
This was 75,
but he was already up there before the independence. They didn't call independence yet before he was already leading the Continental Army, and he was set up there. And as a Virginian, he comes in and was like, I don't know what's going on here. These New Englanders, they elect their own officers. He thought it was very weird.
Who, Washington?
That was a thing New England units did, new militia units. They would elect their own officers, and that goes back. Again, I think they could have done a good little Albion Siege shout out in the beginning of this documentary.
Well, you were upset that it didn't start. That started in the 1750s.
I was going to say that, yeah.
But like, I think the show is about the American Revolution. It's not about the formation. I mean, if they started in Jamestown, I mean, come on.
No, but if they wanted to set the narrative, use the Ben Franklin, snake reference, like that could be the opener and give context to, well, what were these different regions like at the time of Ben Franklin writing, or what led up to that. That could have been his time to explain the major differences between each region. That's all. And he could have mentioned the Magna Carta's influence and the English Bill of Rights.
No Magna Carta, no Mayflower Doctrine.
I mean, yeah, like the actual British Constitution, English constitutions that these men and their fathers and fathers' fathers knew about. But nope, the Indians.
Yeah, it was the Native Americans.
That was my biggest, yeah. But it had decent enough.
The first episode was fine. Episode 2 was trash. Episode 2 was by far the worst episode. If I were to recommend anybody to watch this, I would just tell them to skip episode 2 because it doesn't really cover much. It's very heavy on slavery.
Well, it was heavy on it because it was It was called Asylum for Mankind. Timeline: May 1775 to July 1776. So I think the drive that he kind of tried to get in with this episode was, the lead up to the Declaration of Independence. And what the Declaration of Independence meant, and what it strove
and
for, what people think it strove for,
and what it didn't mean.
And what it didn't mean.
Thomas Jefferson not living on his ideals is what it didn't mean.
Yeah, this was the most idealistic or critically. This is the most critically idealistic episode of the 6. That was not talking much about the battles. I mean, yeah, there was some of it, but
it's a shame because it was one of the big. I mean, it was Bunker Hill was this episode.
And Bunker Hill was super interesting.
But it was such a footnote on this episode, it felt like. Because they started off, right away. Yeah, I have that. Bunker Hill coverage was great. It opens at Fort Ticonderoga with Benedict Arnold, and they're really setting up Benedict Arnold to be this great guy and this huge part of the revolution.
Which he is, yeah.
He is, but you can tell they're already putting in the seed this guy, this is your guy, and then he's going to bail on you guys.
They kind of keep Benedict Arnold was a great American during the war. And then when he got to the point of switching sides, they tried to paint it in a, well, wouldn't you do the same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Based all this like snubbing he got.
Yeah. So they're painting that picture.
British being
because I think
better.
and to that end though, a lot of people don't know how important Benedict Arnold was.
Right.
I think like growing up or like you hear about, obviously it's a phrase that you use, which whatever, but like you just kind of think he was just a random soldier that just switched sides.
He could have been killed multiple times and he would be considered an American hero. Like he would be like a Hugh Mercer or somebody who died during the war.
Yeah.
Like other American Revolutionary heroes.
Mm-hmm.
If he died.
Yeah.
In one of the
Nathan Hale.
Hale. Yeah.
They talked about him. That must have been episode 1.
I have mine here. The big movement here I got is when Bunker Hill was going down. All the fighting was in Boston. The British were basically laying siege. The British were in the town of Boston. They needed the guns in Charlestown, which is north of Boston. That's the most across the river, the Charles River into Charlestown. Henry Knox, who was an artillery, who basically learned all of his artillery knowledge from reading books. He would go on to become the first Secretary of War. He was basically tasked to go up to Fort Ticonderoga after Benedict Arnold and Ethan Allen captured it and basically drag those cannons.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I was like, holy. We drew that drive. We did the drive.
Did we?
We drove up the Hudson River past Fort Ticonderoga.
Did we?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, Fort Ticonderoga. You just blew right past it.
Probably said, hey, is that what they named the pencils after? And then just kept driving. Which I was thinking about that. Why are they named for, Ticonderoga pencils? Why are they named that? Because, and like the boxes have like a Revolutionary War soldier on them. Like they lean into it.
It's named after the town because high quality graphite for the pencils was discovered and mined there.
Wow. That was cool. Yeah, that was cool. I think I fell asleep a couple times with the Ticonderoga with that talk. I had to keep rewinding it, but the thing that just really grinded my gears of this episode, and again, you can't talk about this time period without talking about slavery, and not to say that it's anything that you want to ignore or that it was a good thing or like, whatever. But like they literally introduced George Washington as a slave owner before anything else. Kind of. They talked to him about starting the 7 Years' War, getting upset with Britain, but then like they don't mention him again until they mention him as introducing him as the commander of the army. And I think I have a direct quote that says, one of America's richest men, the beneficiary of scores of indentured servants and over 300 slaves. That's how they introduced George Washington as the commander of the army. I just like,
and as they did that, they had like the lean up like camera like on his chest as the camera rose to like his
and
face,
then like
and they're just
when they say slaves, it's on his face.
300 slave owners, and it's just his eyes are at level with the camera. Yeah.
So it's like, what are you going to do about it?
Like, oh, geez, okay.
Yeah, it was like, I remember I was watching this at the gym, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've never heard him get described like that. Just kind of like, what I've heard more so that they didn't really lean into too much. I mean, they kind of did was that he married wealth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's more of where he became rich.
His wife owned far more slaves than
and she was like way richer than him.
Martha, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
not that we're not scoring who owned, yeah. Irrelevant.
But they talk about that. They talk about George Washington being disgusted with the blacks mingling with the whites in the army. They talk about that this episode.
A lot of people would have had that thought. I think you would have been the minority to think that just commingling would have been acceptable. And
I feel like they put that all on Washington. I think they're just breaking him down because I mean, to some end, you do have this. There is this folklore of like that. He was like this great guy, which he probably was. I probably wouldn't want to hang out with George Washington.
No.
You want to think that you would, that he would be like one of the boys, but like he was probably a dick.
But they said he was like enigmatic, and when you were around him, he did exuberate an air of like he brought out the best in those around him.
Yeah.
And his officers.
In silence and,
But that didn't come again if you only watch
Yeah,
an
I know.
episode or two, you didn't get to that part because they didn't say that until like episode 5.
Yeah.
When like Lafayette was here, like, they didn't say that until way down the
Yeah,
track
yeah,
when it's
yeah.
like he was enigmatic. He was a
Well,
shining
I think they brought it up. It was a battle of Monmouth.
Monmouth, yeah.
Monmouth's one of my favorite. I mean, we've talked about that on the show before. Monmouth's my favorite story is George Washington, where he like
Basically showed up on the scene and like basically turned his men from retreating.
Yeah. Which they didn't. They kind of went light on that too. We'll get to that. But yeah, it's that talk. It's a talk about more slave talk. British were. This was a quote that was kind of lame. Britain was unevenly committed to slavery while the U.S. was fully committed.
Yeah. I remember that quote.
Yeah, and that was kind of like, oh, okay.
If you had to pick one, what would you rather live under?
Yeah.
So again, you go with the British.
Yeah, right.
Oh, they're kind of.
Yeah, right. And that's.
And the British would end slavery in the British Empire in the 19th century. So again, they don't say that in the documentary, but it's like if you keep following the history forward, like the British do end slavery in the empire, and the U.S. still has it,
even though
it's
they still profited from it after they ended it by trading with America, but
the slave. When
they still got cheap cotton.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So
To feed the factories.
I think there was a bit of, well, when you fast forward to the Civil War, they were almost supporting the Confederate States because they wanted the slavery as much as the Southern states did. So
Yes, cotton diplomacy.
they got a Lord Dunmore shout out, our boy.
Yep. I had here, Typhus decimates Lord Dunmore's runaway slave regiments. So a lot of, he put out a proclamation.
Yeah,
They did make a point, to be fair. They said that Lord Dunmore was not an emancipationist.
Lord Dunmore was the governor of
Virginia.
And we went to see his house in Williamsburg.
He looks great in a kilt.
He's got a
Very Scottish.
Our busty our busty tour guide made a point to say that he had horrible fashion sense. He had like a kilt with like he's a bozo, this guy.
And he basically had to get on the run. I think
He kind of blew it big time.
He had to run, and basically they put out a proclamation, Lord Dunmore's proclamation, saying if basically it was a war aim. Any slave that were to fight with him and the British for minimum of 12 months would earn their freedom.
Yes.
And so a bunch of people from Virginia, slaves, ran off, left their masters, ran off with them. But then apparently, I have in my notes, Typhus ended up killing a bunch of them. They ended up on an island. And then they said some patriots showed up there, and it was just like bodies strewn everywhere, like of dead slaves.
Really?
They were like skeletons hanging out of the ground, like just typhus and typhoid killed a bunch of them.
Backfire.
They did talk about the smallpox epidemic, that Washington was very hesitant to
On the vaccines.
Get vaxxed. I think they kind of threw that dig at him too. Oh, Mr. Anti-Vax, George Washington over here. So you get again.
The reason that
is a very political narrative. It's a bit political.
But the reason that he didn't want to vax his soldiers was because he didn't want them out of commission.
That's right. But he didn't. They kind of made him a little short-sighted in that regard. He also put
Then
leeches. He also used leeches to bloodlet, which killed him.
Well, that killed him. He wasn't Mr. Maybe he wasn't Mr. Science. I don't know if George was a big Mr. Science guy. I think he was more.
He did breed dogs. He bred the American Foxhound, which was on the dog show yesterday. He's a dog breeder.
Cool.
They're good-looking dogs. They did talk about Montreal, which was a big whoop. That was a big boo-boo, which Benedict Arnold led.
Yeah.
And that was tough.
I dozed off.
That was a tough slog.
I dozed off after Benedict got in the leg when the Patriots got on in Quebec. Potentially the 14th colony, somebody said.
Could have been.
Yeah. So they went up to this is all before the Declaration of Independence.
1775.
You don't realize how much action happened before that, too. Kind of think that nothing happened. Like, you think about the Boston Massacre, Declaration of Independence, then the war, almost. But they went up to the whole thing, the start of the war, they really wanted to, if there was a fight for the Hudson River, was like the biggest,
right.
the gem of the gem of the war because the England felt as though if they had the Hudson River kind of split New England in half.
Split New England in half. It was effectively the Mississippi. It was the Mississippi of the 18th century.
Yeah.
You literally could go up the New York Harbor, up into the Hudson, which would take you up to Lake Champlain, which would then eventually get into, I think, the St. Lawrence Waterway. You take that all the way out to Nova Scotia and you're in the ocean.
Yeah.
So like that waterway, it goes back centuries of importance to the French, to the English. Yeah, it is the essential kind of water route. So Montreal is on that in Quebec. It's on that river, that water system.
Yeah. So they felt like maybe they'd be able to, if they took Quebec, they were kind of all in a high off of Fort Ticonderoga. So they sent little Benedict up there and they blew it big time.
Yeah, try to get the French on their side, the French Catholics. I feel like they would probably felt half-assed, convincing a bunch of Protestants from America coming up, trying to pitch French Catholics that will treat you better than the British.
Yeah.
I think they were very skeptical.
But the
of
British
that.
were already there, and that's kind of what surprised them a bit, I think.
And I also have here in my notes that Darren Bonaparte, a.k.a. the Blowhard, claims Native warriors were sent to kick out Americans. He was
Darren Bonaparte, was he the guy who was like white but was talking like he was an Indian?
Yeah, he kept saying we, the collective first person.
I have a note in here about
And he
him.
basically was saying, like, the Native American tribes in that area too, they all came together and they basically just pushed the Americans out down back into New York.
Yeah.
He was an asshole.
Who?
After dark, maybe.
What was his name?
Darren Bonaparte.
Not one reference to Napoleon Bonaparte in the whole thing either, which I couldn't believe. Like, did you look him up?
Look at this picture right now.
I know he's married to the Mohawk lady, I think.
You think they're married? Got an article in the Wampum Chronicle here. Wampum Chronicle. It's a really sweet website. Just so angry. I mean, I get it. Again, if you're Native American, it's like your ancestors.
I mean, we brought it up that Native Americans at Monticello didn't seem too happy that we were taking a trip with.
So yeah, So where did it end? Episode 2.
Episode 2, and well, first of all, episode end. They also introduced Thomas Jefferson, and voicing him was Jeff Daniels, maybe. I don't know. I didn't want to look it up because I wanted to look it up here. Was it Jeff Daniels? Which I found very strange because Jeff Daniels does not have a Southern accent at all. And I feel like Thomas Jefferson would have had a fairly big Southern accent, but I'm not seeing Jeff Daniels here. Maybe it wasn't him. And now all you see is it had to have been, Jeff Daniels. 4 episodes. It had to have been him. Jeff Daniels voice of Thomas Jefferson. No Southern accent. I found that strange. You know, like I feel like there could have, it didn't feel legit. Thomas Jefferson not living up to his ideals makes an appearance. Even mentions, it ended with him writing the Declaration of Independence. And this was another thing that didn't have to be. We get it. We get it.
We might have the same notes.
These men owned slaves. We get it. But they write, Thomas Jefferson was writing the Declaration of Independence. They show that house that
you can't get into,
right? We've tried to a couple times that they've rebuilt over the what was it? It was a grocery store. What grocery store was it? They turned it into some kind of corner market, and then ended up rebuilt it
for the
and
bicentennial.
But now I think and then I think now it's got some structural issues, and that you're not allowed inside. But anyway, they have my note says, and I don't remember exactly how they said it, but they mentioned a Hemmings boy slave waited on him while he wrote the Declaration of Independence. He brought him hella tea.
I said Hemmings family talked about while he's drafting Declaration, of course, ... owner of hundreds of human beings, ... TJ can't catch a break.
Yeah, that was weird. Like
they had to throw Hemmings in because you're saying, Sally Hemings of Sally Hemings fame?
I get that, but like, dude, I mean, he's talking about writing the Declaration of Independence, and they're basically saying he's writing all men are created equal while this Hemmings boy is like serving him tea the whole time. Like he stayed up all night because of the tea that this Hemmings boy would bring him. It was so weird. It was so weird. It was so weird. Like just completely shitting on him.
He got it way worse than Washington overall in the doc. He got it way worse.
You think so?
Just because he didn't fight either.
Well, there was no. Yeah, they kind of. I think I have that in here. Is like they show him like up on they show Monticello, and you know how we talked about like he wanted to make it look modest, but man, they're showing like they go from one scene of like talking about how the soldiers were eating their own boots because they were starving to like they would go from that scene and then cut to like and then Thomas Jefferson and Monticello, and they would show his house and it was like beautiful and in the mountains and like, okay. Like they basically Thomas Jefferson got waited on, wrote the Declaration of Independence, and then poof, was gone. That was like pretty much his whole thing. Which
mentioned his governorship in Virginia and how he had a fleet of Richmond.
Yeah, how
they nearly picked him up. Oh, in Charlottesville. No, they almost got him in Charlottesville.
I think they almost got him at Monticello.
Yeah, but he slipped out.
Yeah,
slip.
Which I don't remember hearing about that when we took that tour.
Guess I did find it relevant.
I guess. I have a note. Fell asleep probably 4 times trying to finish this one, episode 2. I remember I kept falling asleep. I could not get through it. I kept falling asleep. I had
is Maggie Blackhawk in English Warren, Elizabeth Warren type Indian.
Oh, ouch! I don't know if you can say that.
Like 2%, like the.
Well, I thought about that with Donnie Bonaparte. What's his name?
Darren.
They're married, I think. Are they?
Mm-hmm.
They are married?
I have here Republicus. I don't know. I didn't Google
Why did you say,
I don't know. I'm trying to tell you my next note. I just have here Republicus. Republicus gives name of United States of America. That was mentioned in a newspaper. Must have been in
that was when it was named.
Coined.
That, yeah.
The Brits couldn't fill the ranks, so in come the Hessians.
Yes.
So the Hessians basically were sold. These guys were basically part of.
They were basically mercenaries.
Mercenaries, but not necessarily of their own accord. It was like the townlets and the principalities in Germany, because Germany wasn't a unified state yet. Basically, their own little kings and dukes would like send them over here. Got 42,088 bullets from the King George statue in NYC, which was in the movie Revolution,
which we also saw the statue. They had a remake of it in the Museum of the American Revolution.
Really? I don't remember.
Yeah, remember it was very anatomically correct. Don't you remember that?
All the details.
They gave the horse the Mussolini treatment, I'll say that much.
Oh. It's a lot of bullets.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I remember that from the museum. Learning that.
It says here, my last note on episode 2, King George believed the American insurrection could lead to the collapse of the entire British Empire. I don't know if that's a little hyperbolic or if it's
because it did.
Like, I mean, eventually.
Yeah.
No, there was a second English Empire when you had Australia, and I think that would explain why they had the noose a little tighter around their colonies after the fact.
Yeah.
They did make a point of like the American colonies were like they were more decentralized just by the nature of what the empire was up until they.
Well, I think they also superimposed England on the size of the colonies, and it's like,
yeah,
it freaking dwarfs it.
Yeah. And they made the point they were secondary. Oh, the English didn't care. They had India to worry about.
Oh, yeah, that was a huge part.
The West Indies, the Caribbean islands were far more important. And if they had to worry about anything in North America, like I was saying earlier, it would be the southern colonies, Georgia and the Carolinas.
Yeah, they make a point that they didn't care about New England, which...
Well, because they were all, I don't know, not Presbyterian, Congregationalists. They were... town folk. They were the rebel rousers of the 17th century. That's why I do think they could have done more to like tell who are these people that populate these different regions, because the New Englanders primarily were like the radicals in England, and they didn't like the British monarchy back when they were in England, let alone 100 years later. Oh, that was two. I got John Peters here, Vermont loyalist, bitched out. That was another note I had.
What did he do?
He was the one that they elected him, and they went to the Continental Congress, and he was like, no, I don't think we should stay. And then they basically kicked him out, went back to Vermont, was getting like harassed on his way back home.
No, I think we should stay, you mean. Like he was he was a loyalist.
Yeah.
Well, at first he was not.
Yeah.
I feel like he was like not at first, and then
wasn't a loyalist, but there's like there weren't like patriots that were hard patriots at that point yet either. There were people who were like, well, it can go either way. John Dickinson would be a perfect example. Like once it was set in stone that they were gonna break apart, people picked their final sides.
That's your boy.
One of them.
You got to mention here or there, didn't he?
John Dickinson was not discussed.
A little bit. He was Quaker.
Author of the penman of the American Revolution was not mentioned at all in this documentary. When was John Dickinson talked about as the penman of the American Revolution? They talked about Thomas Paine a lot, and I think because he's the most radical of them. And Ken Burns and Peter Coyote.
They mentioned John Dickinson as a Quaker who joined the war.
But they didn't talk about his writings that were like super important.
But they kind of talked about how the Quakers. Were you Googling it?
He's called the penman of the American Revolution.
Okay, great. Oh, you're so smart. You're so smart. Is that what you want me to? Is that what you want to hear? You're so smart. He's the penman. Fans. If you heard it here, John knows that John Dickinson was the penman of the American Revolution. He knows more than Ken Burns and Donnie Bonaparte.
I'm just saying, every time they had someone referring to like gripes to like
Donnie Bonaparte,
Darren
Bonaparte.
No, but just every time they had some transgression, like it was always Thomas Paine. That was like the guy that everything that was referencing as the other people had had criticism of them that weren't as extreme as Thomas Paine. That's all I'm trying to say.
I gotcha.
So episode 2 was kind of terrible. I did enjoy learning more about the invasion of Quebec, and that really set him back. That was tough. That was a tough L.
That was basically like
tough L to take.
I think there was a bit of a cockiness to the colonials.
They thought the French were going to come.
Yeah,
they thought they had them hook, line, and sinker for sure.
Yeah.
I think they thought, why wouldn't the French have to hate? They're the eternal enemies of the British. Why wouldn't they join these American upstarts?
But then I think the British were, well, obviously.
Well, the French were like, we're still Catholic. You're Protestants. Why do you think we're just going to join you?
So what happened in Quebec? They showed up and like the townspeople like fought against them too, right? Isn't that what kind of happened? They weren't expecting
a resistance. I think they were expecting far more open arms from the French population.
But it was more like they fought against them.
Yeah, I think they were thrown back a little bit at the resistance by them, which makes sense. I think it's an American. It's like, why would we trade one tyrant for another? Why do you think we would just naturally want to be our own thing?
Like maybe we want the colonies.
The
French. Could you imagine?
All of North America.
I'll tell you.
There was a time it probably could have happened.
Well, so that's episode 2. Did I say I fell asleep 4 times? Yeah, I did say that. Yes.
Reiterate it.
I have a note in here saying I'm starting to think to myself, maybe George Washington was a bit of a dickhead. Like it really had you thinking.
That's the same takeaway we got when we went down to Charlottesville.
I know. They're doing a good job of it. And like you kind of think maybe they were.
But that's fine.
Maybe they were
but
out.
They can be. But that's not the. But is that then that you still have to answer? Well, why are they considered important?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I mean, I get it. I think
just shows their humanness. I think I'm fine with the one guy made a great point. I forget the guy's name. I said I wasn't a big fan of him. There was a gentleman, an interviewer, who said, I'm not a big proponent of the great men theory. Like kind of mythological, making like myths out of great men, mythological. And he said that about Washington. He's like, yeah, while he wasn't this great mythological hero, Like he was a great leader.
You got to give it to them for standing up to Britain. I mean, I think that's the point that's so romanticized about it, is like underdog story. You know, these guys saying like, we're not taking this anymore. I don't know.
But again, going back to the very beginning, a lot of the stuff I listen to, and the podcaster I listen to, who would go
Brian McClanahan,
he would say that the biggest reason that a lot of these founders were going against the British is that the British weren't holding up to their end of the bargain anymore, of holding on to these ancient liberties that as free Englishmen they've had and they've earned over centuries, going back to the Magna Carta, going back to the English Bill of Rights. And that's why I think they talked more about it just being revolutionary and standing up because we don't have representation in Parliament. Yeah, that was part of it.
I think this documentary does a good job of going beyond that. I think just in general, you mostly talk about it as the Stamp Act, the intolerable, like, you know, all this, like, just getting beat down by the British government. But I think this paints the picture of like, yeah, these guys were just like, they were mad that they were getting treated poorly by their government, not so much like you said, like the land not being able to, like, losing their freedom. They thought that they were able to have their freedom for that. That's what they were promised to come up by coming over here, I guess.
Not what they were promised, but they saw themselves as free Englishmen.
Right.
But those in England didn't see them that way. They saw them as colonists that were, by the time of this war, should fall under the purview of the Parliament and the King. But George Washington and those in New England, even in Pennsylvania, they would say, well, we've had these, our father's father, you know, we've centuries as Englishmen ourselves. We see ourselves as no different, and you do. So I don't think Ken Burns really made a point of that. He kept harping more on equality as being the key founding element of this country, which it wasn't. And that's like great for them. I know you don't think that. I know the Proposition Nation myth, he didn't like to talk about that. You think it's irrelevant, but the fact of the matter is no one would have said that they were equal. They weren't fighting for the equality of all races or all this, or even moving in that direction.
No, they were fighting for independence.
So that they maintain their English liberties. That if the government that gave them their English liberties, they would say that the society which fostered these English liberties and this idea of freedom and liberty, if they can't guarantee these things anymore, well, then we will go our own way. So it was a conservative in nature. It wasn't
go your own way. Is that what that song's about?
Could
go
be.
Your own way.
I'm going monotone. I got to cool back. Anyway, back to
Can all it thunder, the British Empire. So that's episode 2. You want to take a break? Maybe this could be one episode. Yeah. And then we'll break it up into 2 episodes, 2 episode batches, maybe. Take a little bit of a break. Maybe you can rejuvenate, start loosening up a little bit. You're starting to tighten up a little bit.
Oh no.
You're starting to tighten up a little bit.
No.
I think what happened was you started talking about the French, and that just gets you tight.
Oh no.
So we've made it to episode 2 ends with the Declaration of Independence being signed, I believe. That's how episode 2 ends, and that's where we're going to end this podcast. Just for the episode, not permanently, not yet, at least.
I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical. I'm sorry.
And we say bye-bye.